welcome everybody, all the attendees, and there'll be more coming, I think, as we progress. And all the panelists and my co-host is Alan Steinfeld. Have Gary Temple Bodley, Roxanne Swainhart, and Tyler Ellison. And yeah, if most of you, I guess, were at the session from yesterday, kind of know how things work. Maybe first, maybe Roxanne can explain a little bit the webinar format.
Sure. Yeah, guys, in Zoom, there's two formats, and we're doing the webinar format instead of the meeting format. So in that, the panelists have their own functions, and we're the only ones going to be on screen until another function is enabled. And let me go over that. So the attendees, at the bottom of your screen, you have a chat button, and you have a raise your hand button, and you have I think you have the Q&A button as well. So in the chat, talk to everybody, back and forth with each other and the panelists. So there's a little button. So that's going to be monitored by the two monitors today, the two hosts. And we also have the Q&A. Now that's going to be a question that's going to be posed to a particular channel or anyone you want. It's all up to you. And that'll be answered usually in order. The question will be asked and then it'll be directed or whatever, and they'll handle that. But there's also the raise hand feature. And what that is if you want to come on live. So when you come on live, your video will not be turned on. That's not going to happen, but your sound will, and your name will be displayed. So know that your name and your voice is going to be on YouTube someday as that. Okay, so if you do not want your image out there, well, then ask it in the chat. Okay, and we only use first name basis in the chat anyway, or ask it in the Q&A part. Pardon me, not the chat, the Q&A part. And I think that will cover it.
Right?
Thank
you,
What do you
Roxanne.
think?
Yeah, and the way that the flow of yesterday and the structure, we'll try to do it again today. That means a little bit of a introduction conversation between the five of us initially. We'll keep it kind of short, but talk about the idea of authenticity and this time, this energetic change that's happening. We're shooting through a portal of sorts. It's quite obvious. And tomorrow is a highlight with the Christmas star coming and the two becoming one. I love the parallels going on, and I feel like channelers have something to say about this. And so we'll talk about that a little bit, and then we'll open it up to Q&A. Well, first, Q&A from towards the channelers without the beings they're channeling. And then we'll have a break at some point, probably within an hour and a half, like a little 10-minute break. And then everybody comes back and we'll do the actual, they'll be in the channeled state, the three channelers, and you can pose questions in the Q&A to the channelers, and towards one, but if any other channels would like to add something to it, they can. And yeah, we'll go on until, to the limit of, 3 hours, maybe a bit longer, depending on how the flow is. And yeah, I'm excited. Today we have Alan with us. He wasn't able to make the last one because he had to go to a funeral, and my condolences, Alan. I know that I admire that you're able to make the time given this, obviously, the state you're probably in. And
well, this helps because I would say a funeral is a celebration of life, the incarnational force, and what everyone's doing here is talking about the spirit. Who are we really? And when we don't quite understand that logically, but we embody it. Each one of us embody it. And what I love about channeling is the ability to go beyond the limits of our human condition and bring that spirit in. So I'm actually very happy to be here and very excited about it.
Oh, thanks, Alan. Yeah, you've been in the business for a very long time. You've dealt with many channelers, and it's part of your spiritual awakening you mentioned, of course, Ramtha and your experience with that entity. And so I'm very curious about your interactions as well this evening, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. Maybe we can start off do you have maybe a specific question about?
I just want to say, you mentioned Ramtha, and the reason I didn't believe in any of this, I thought, the woman was channeling Ramtha, this 35,000-year-old warrior from Atlantis, was just crazy, and like, oh no, because my whole framework was psychology. It had to fit into what we think the mind is. And the one thing that Ramtha said in that first session I went to is, everybody wants to know what's happening here. What is channeling? And then he said, what's happening in that body? Who are you bringing through? What's the source of that energy and that voice and that consciousness? And that shifted me from just a psychological perspective that said you have to doubt your mind, don't trust what you're thinking, and open up to this great resource we have and to tap into these non-local consciousnesses. It's like suddenly discovering you have internet on your computer as opposed to just having someone input all the information. So when you discover like we're all a part of this great non-local consciousness, then the world changes, and what we think about ourselves and each other, and the prospect of bringing in this beautiful knowledge that's beyond the limits of our little individual computer, it's about changing the world and changing where we're going as a civilization. That's
Beautiful. I agree completely. Yeah, I guess maybe we can kick things off with just because it worked so well yesterday, ask each of the channelers maybe just a very kind of brief question about how they got into channeling and discovered this ability, just for the audience to know the story. Gary, did you want to start?
Sure. So I was living a super normal life. I didn't think that anything was different about me. In fact, my whole life was about being as normal as possible and fitting in and all that. And I had thought that my way to discover or manifest my worthiness was through business and making lots of money. And then in 2008, during the crisis, I lost everything. So I basically had to start all over. And right at the beginning of that, we had moved into a new house. There was a rental house because our house went into foreclosure along with all the other properties we owned. And a good friend brought us The Secret, and we got really into The Secret. We listened to it dozens of times. And then we found Abraham's Ask and It's Given in our own library that we had bought somehow in the past and had listened to it, but never resonated with us. Now, all of a sudden, that was resonating. We booked a workshop in Asheville, the 2-day event there. And then both of our lives, my wife and I at the time, changed our course. And so we started doing what our passions were. And then in 2013, I heard Jerry Steinfeld and other people were meditating. And I had this huge inspiration to start meditating. I could not do it. So I just started meditating with the Abraham meditations. And at first it was very difficult. But after about 2 weeks or so, I got into this rhythm and I started to feel a presence in my skull during meditation. And it was a very obvious sensation, like a hand rubbing on the side of my jaw inside my skin. And it would move around. And I just started talking to it as if it was, some other entity, as if I was on the hot seat in front of Abraham, and started asking those kinds of questions, the questions that probably people will ask today, similar to that. And I was getting answers back that were different, but it felt like my own thoughts. So I doubted it. And it kept coming and coming and coming. And so I just played with it. I didn't tell anyone. I thought it was super weird. Now, remember, I'm trying to be a normal guy, and here this stuff is coming in. And then in November 15th, 2013, during meditation, they said, get up and go right, right, right. So I went to my office, closed the door, turned off all music and everything, and just started typing. And so I typed for about half an hour, and the introduction of the first book, A Perception of Reality, was channeled in that session. And didn't know what it was. It felt like complete gibberish as I was typing it out. and then went back and read it and was like, wow, this is really amazing. The friend who brought me The Secret, her husband came to dinner that night, so I had her read it, and she had chills all over. And so the next day I got up and wrote again, and in 8 weeks, that first book was written. The next day, the next book started, and since then there's been 5 books. The last book actually is called An Authentic Life, which will be released next year. So then that's how it all started. And it took 7 years to get where I am now. And in that 7 years, this whole Joshua thing has gotten big, all kinds of events, all kinds of other articles and different things have happened, tons of opportunities to do channeling. And it's absolutely radically changed my life.
Great, man. Yeah, it's like you have the typical biography. I think we'll hear from other channels. Also, something comes into your life that really wakes you up and really, as you said, you had the book in your library already. You were getting the universe giving you signs, but you couldn't listen. You weren't at that state yet where you were ready to listen or resonating at that level.
Right.
And
because I was focused on this direction of proving my worthiness through manipulating outside conditions. And I was so focused on that I couldn't see what was true. And it took, it really took 5 years of this until about 2 years ago, where the boot, I had moved up to North Carolina, the boot camp was channeled. And up until that point, I was a student of Joshua like everyone else. And then something switched and I became a teacher. And once I recognized that I was a teacher, I could see all these talents and attributes that I had my whole life that I was pursuing in the typical standard Western society way. But it's actually, I was always teaching, I was always giving seminars and lectures and helping people and things like that, but not really for them. Mostly it was for me. I was trying to fill the empty void that I felt because I didn't believe in my own worthiness. And since that shift happened 2 years ago, now everything that I do is for the greater good of all.
Can I just ask you, how integrated are you, or does Joshua have a time where you decide to do the channeling, or is he just barging in all the time?
It's always been integrated, and I can access it at any time. And it's, whenever I'm alone in the shower or driving or whatever, it's this constant conversation going on. Sleeping at night, a lot of times I'm woken up at 3 a.m. and we have these sessions during meditation. It's the same way. And so it's always there. Now, the thing that's interesting is that my inner self is coming through now. And so I'm being more of a blended being. So my inner self is giving me guidance in the form of emotion, intuition, and inspiration. So the inspiration, where every time you have this idea or the thought to take some action, is always met with a bit of fear, no matter what it is. And the fear, we don't even think about it as fear, but the fear could be like, call your father. And the fear would be, well, he's not going to answer, or he's going to talk about something I don't want to talk about, or, whatever it is. Or the main fear is I could do it tomorrow, right? And this is this belief that it's no big deal if we get the inspiration now, we can always do it tomorrow. But that is the fear. You're putting off that which you're inspired to do at a later date. So it's sort of all coalescing into this realization that my soul, my inner self, is connecting with me and blending with me and integrating with me, and we're becoming unified, so that I act on the inspiration at every moment, and that I'm starting to perceive physical reality from the perspective of my inner self. So from the perspective of pure love and acceptance of all of it. And as we're moving into this next few months, especially tomorrow, all of us are going to get the shift towards that connection, where we're no longer going to look for outside voices, leaders, to tell us what we should be doing. We are going to trust the inner guidance of our soul coming through and operate in physical reality from that soul's perspective. And in that, we truly become limitless.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. And yeah, Roxanne, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your story and how you got into channeling.
Cool. So in 2010, I became Roxanne because there was just none of that other world left. It was either that or die. You know, did the whole thing, left the suicide note, did it all. I said, I got two choices here. I'm going home or I'm going to figure it out. Well, I couldn't go home because I'm too much of a girl. I just couldn't do it, you know. And so those 2 years of awakening before I moved to back here, I was back in Vegas. And that was finding this self. And it was an ego self, of course, to manage to create this self. It's another structure. But at the time, you don't know structure. You know the value of yourself is the truth. And every truth becomes an evolutionary self of reflection. And then if you have the courage to let go of the truth, a new truth, you evolve. Hey, look at that. So I got to the point when I came back and moved to here with my parents and lived with a family that was rejecting me and then taught me self-love, blah, blah, blah. Had a time and found a group, and they were doing guided meditation. And this group was an awake group. I didn't know even what awake was. I didn't know anything about you create your own reality, kibbles and bits. They handed me Ramtha, they handed me Bashar, they handed me Abraham, and they handed me Seth. And I devoured those over a 4-month period, right? And then I woke up, and we're having this little group after the meditation talk. And someone had asked a question, and then I got a voice in my head, and he goes, say this. So I said, okay. Because I've always talked to this crazy in here. I never bought into the story. It's your imagination. I still talk to it. It's the only one that gave a shit about me. Everyone else didn't care about me. That was my kitten purr. You know, when a kitten's gonna die, it purrs itself in comfort. You know, and when it's, you know, on its deathbed, not here in the house, but it does that when it knows death is here. So it's that comfortable self. So I would talk to me, right? And the voice gave an answer, and then everyone stopped in the room to go, holy shit, where'd that come from? And I said, hey, where'd that come from? And they go, and the voice goes, my name is Hugh. So I said, hey, Hugh, how are you? Hey, everyone, it's Hugh. And they're like, oh, cool. Does Hugh want to say anything else? And not really. And he goes, no, not really. And that was it. And that was it. And I was driving home, and I said, Hugh, you still there? And he goes, yeah. And I said, what's going on? And he goes, you want to learn a channel? And I said, yep. And that was it. And that's how I started. And then you do the evolution. You trust the inside voice. There's a whole bunch of frequencies. I have, you know, Palia from the Essassani civilization, Akina from the Pleiadians, Nakuru from the Hathors, Buford from the fairies, Sylvester, Sly, Osiphus, Ophiuchus, Jane, Cupid, you know, Gabriel, all these different frequencies coming through to me. And then, of course, that would be the magnificence of my own interpretation, reflecting back to me, my own evolution. So creation knows itself through the singularity. And then, you know, you just do it. You go through all the fears, and you go through all the absolute tearing yourself apart to realize you're not a product of society. You're not an intention. You're not a future. You're a singularity now, being all that is. I buy into the 5 laws that Bashar gave us. You know, the collective, you know, and everything else is creation after that. But those laws allow us to be, and consciousness is. So I accepted my consciousness. Everything is here and now. So I started realizing my relationship to time. What I put out is what I get back. Creation is universal and unconditional. So if I'm putting out conditionings, I receive the idea, the ability to evolve those conditionings. I realized that the negatives never did come to me. It was my perception that was negative. It was always a neutral universe or an unconditional. So it was the way I was relating to it. Can I evolve and see the division that lies within? And then one or all are one, which I don't know what that means yet. And it's finite, because I don't think there is a finite to that.
Hmm.
I don't think anything can be contained and sold for Christmas as a package. I think that would be rude of us, but that's the journey of me. And that's what the authentic is to be the idea no matter what, and trust that inner self, like Gary said, and bring that crazy bitch to the future, to the now, to the I am, and bring her out, and whatever that is. And one day I discovered it's not that. I'm not that. I'm this. I am. So I started being that. And like Gary said, you start to not use the channel so much. When did I lose my God stripes? I didn't. So whatever my intuition is isn't equal to a channel. It's not equal as a measure or up or down. It's equal in its value. You know, it's unequal to the perceptions if they want to value a channel over a human. That's not my job to manage them. So we started to understand that we're becoming I am again. We're not becoming what we're supposed to be. We're already that. We have to take the shit down that says we're not. So, you know, I started seeing that I'm good enough to speak as a creator now, because I've accepted my own existence, and that channeling brought me to that. And when I started channeling, holy cow, it was all magic. It was all my God. None of this is in my memory. It's real. I doubted. I feared. Well, that was a little Shatner. I doubted Spock. No, so fear and just stuff like that was just my magnificence. To understand reality through that perspective that I owned and I created just because I came here separated.
Hmm.
So channeling became, and here we are.
Awesome.
Playing in the reindeer games of humanity.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, it's
Anyways, I think
no,
it's
that was a great yeah, in your story, yeah, that
fantastic.
your development, of course, you know, changing your energy from you know, into Roxanne, and and that happening for you literally kind of overnight, right? If I'm correct.
Oh yeah, it was quick. Yeah.
Wow. And that tells, I mean, for the identity structure, the ego, that puts obviously a lot of things in doubt, you know, and I think that
Huge.
that helps you, of course, discover your inner voice and the ability to channel, just because you realize that you had these two different things inside of you, right? I mean, that
Yeah.
and yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so Tyler, yeah, you're.
Can I just introduce
Yes.
Tyler? Because I just want to say, when I first saw Tyler channel, he was fearless. He went into the state, he gives it his all, and this great brilliance came out and lit up the room. And he's quite a developing being on the scene, and integrating the knowledge and expanding and accessing more all the time. Every time I see him, he's goes to another level. So happy you're here, Tyler.
Alan, thank you. That means a lot. And yeah, I had a blast doing those channeling videos with you in New York. That was an amazing opportunity, and it was a lot of fun. And you're a fantastic host. I had a blast spending that time with you. So thank you. And yeah, thank you everybody for sharing too. This is really amazing to be here with everybody. It's hearing your stories is insanely inspiring. I feel myself like even now just like letting go of like more and just dialing into this group consciousness we're all cultivating together, and it's really fantastic. My heart's like just exploding open. So I want to really thank everybody for just opening up and sharing about themselves and their journeys, because yeah, this life has so many crazy challenges, and it seems that we all share that theme of the shamanic death, right? Going through this thing that almost seems to cripple one, and like sometimes the ones around you too. And then there's this beautiful phoenix rebirth into a new level, a new paradigm, and it's so amazing. I mean, I think that it's so fitting for Christmas, right? In the sense that we're all kind of like that Christ, right? That dies and is then reborn into a new level. And so fitting, right? With the solstice tomorrow, right? The most yin time of the year. greatest darkness, and then Christmas representing that sun being, reborn. So it's, I think, really fitting that we're kind of reviewing these transformational stories right now during these times. So yeah, I just wanted to share that. And then was there a specific, was the question just how we got into channeling? That was the...
Yeah, a little bit about your story.
I just wanted to jump in on what you said, Tyler, about tomorrow and the solstice and the Jupiter-Saturn alignment in Aquarius. Some people say that is the beginning of the Aquarian age. I mean, some people said it already happened, but there is a moment in time where I think we can let go of what just happened this past year, which was kind of a bardo. A bardo is a passage, and a new light is coming. And the new light is the light of consciousness. And this is why we're all here discussing this, because this is real. It's real for more and more people. And it's a hope for humanity. And so that's what we're doing today. And it's fun too. And who knows what's going to be said. So.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a lot of fun. It's not always easy, but it's definitely really fun, especially when you look back and you're like, whoa, how did I get here? All this just happened. I just kept following my heart. I kept following my North Star, and now look where I am. And I think that's that hindsight, and then that basking in the bliss of the moment is the greatest fun that is really available to a human being. It's fantastic. And so I started.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Alan.
No, I just want to know how you discovered your channelingness.
Yeah. So my first exposure to channeling was Bashar, who is channeled by Darryl Anka, and I think I came across his material really synchronistically in, I want to say it was right before 2012. It was like right before that time. And I was at that time sort of like a hippie kind of party person, a little self-destructive. I had a lot of issues. I had a lot of really shadowy things that I think was just, in the genetics, in my culture, in whatever, right, from childhood, whatever the origin is. I was working through a lot of that and was also trying to kind of push it away with just like pleasure, hedonism, and self-destruction. And I started to slowly get more and more and more into spiritual concepts. I was hanging out with people that were kind of representing my next level, but also were reflecting my own shadow back. So they were like quasi-spiritual, right? They were into these things like crystals, meditation, consciousness, but also were reflecting back some of those shadowy aspects. But I found when I was with them, the more that I gave myself to the spiritual practices we were doing, which was like yogic breathing, meditation, consciousness exercises, the more and more and more dreamlike and lucid this world started to become. And eventually that raised my frequency to a point where Bashar's material was able to synchronistically, intercept my reality. And I remember hearing it, and it was like somebody like grabbed me when I was listening to him talk. I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be listening to this. And it was this intense thirst for more of that. I was like, whatever this is something I'm supposed to get as close to as possible. And for a while, it was sort of theoretical information for me. Like I would listen to it and I'd be like, almost like doing my best to just sort of absorb it, right? Not really knowing I had the power to apply it and live it. So I just spent time listening to that, doing my best to access whatever sort of ambient energy from those videos I could access. And over time, I started applying it. I was like, wait a minute, hold on. Because one of his big teachings is you can redefine, create a new meaning for anything in your reality to create a totally different effect. So I remember being like, hold on. Everything in my life that I'm judging that is negative is really only affecting me negatively because I'm defining it that way. Whoa, hold on. Let me rewrite the script. And then I just started like rewriting everything that was negative, and then I started acting out those definitions in the face of those things, and it pretty much caused a like total kundalini awakening where if somebody saw me, they'd be like, this dude is unhinged. Like I was pretty much like seeing something, giving it positive meaning, and then just acting as if it was 100% true. And it created a radical personality shift in like a day, where my parents were like, oh my God, our son has fried his brain. What has happened to our boy? Like, they were so concerned. My friends thought it was hilarious. People I met along the way, like, kind of got it. They were like, yeah, you're onto something, man. And it was a journey that really burned away everything that was sort of that lower, older self that was self-destructive, hedonistic. And that burning away process had like a big initial combustion, right? And that's kind of what caused this really excessive kind of awakened personality. And then, you know, there were still some embers, right, that were burning things up over the years afterwards. And I definitely have found that that Kundalini awakening was so vivid, so intense, and it was like a month long. It was like being in an altered state of like the highest capacity for a month. So you could imagine, right? People that knew me probably were like, this guy is doing something, you know? So, but it was so powerful that I could never forget it. It was just always there. So I was having visions. I was able to open my eyes and see overlays of energy. I could see beings in the room at times. I mean, it was like full blown and so vivid that if I'm ever like, my ego is ever like, you know, is this stuff real? I'm like, well, I don't know. Remember back to 2012 when you like saw meridians and like energy flowing throughout your body? It's like, you can't unsee that. So that was sort of my initial awakening, which I give a lot of credit to Bashar for, just for being so generous and sharing information with our civilization. And then I just took the information, ran with it. And during that time and in the years after, I started having essentially UFO sightings, which at first was more subtle. Just how when you see stars in the night sky, right, there are these luminescent dots. I would be driving my car, and this was probably 2011, 2012, right around that time. I would see these like constellations that would be a perfect triangle, and some of them would be huge. And I'd be like, oh, wow, what a like beautiful, interesting triangle in the sky. That looks great. And I'd be driving my car, noticing it. And then I would notice like it wasn't fixed. I would move to another space on the road, on the highway, and it would still like be there. I'm like, that's weird. And I'd be like looking at other stars and I'm like, okay, I can see they're fixed. They're stationary. This thing I'm able to see like wherever I am right now. And that was something that happened maybe 2 times where I noticed that. And I wasn't at first like aliens. I remember at first being like, maybe that's like an optical illusion. Maybe it's some kind of weird error in my perception, whatever. And then it got to a point where I would be driving like to a friend's house at the time. And this thing, still in kind of a star visual oriented expression, would essentially be going with the car. And I would like be in the neighborhood, which was kind of in this valley. This thing's like still overhead. And by the time I get into the neighborhood, it like essentially goes over the tree line. I can't see it anymore. So I was like, that is a thing moving. And then other folks in that area started having sightings as well. People that were very normal. Like there was like my friend's dad. He said he saw something like that flying in like, anyway. That was it initially. That was sort of 2011, 2012. And then fast forward into Connecticut to maybe 2015. This was probably the early summer of 2015. I had another sighting, but this time with multiple people. I had about 3 other people with me. We were all employees at a solar panel company. We were driving back to the office, and we see this low hanging triangular UFO over the highway, and everyone sees it. And we're all just like quiet. And someone's like, you guys see that, right? We're all like, yep, we see that. And I didn't move, just stayed there, just hovered. So essentially I started having these UFO sightings. And throughout this time of the awakening from 2012 until onward, like I said, I had been really into the Bashar material. And as just out of love for it, right, I would see people that were going through challenges in life. And I'd be like, oh, I remember this thing Bashar said that was so useful, helped me out. Let me share it with this person. So I would go to just talk about what I heard in the Bashar transmission to a person who's going through something. And in the moments where I would start to speak about what Bashar said, I found I was going into an altered state where I was like, that's different. Like I feel like a super me when I'm talking about that. And that I think was my first dipping of the toes into channeling. And I eventually just kept practicing that state and accessing that state. I started listening to recording classes of how to channel. I started practicing, and I started having hits right off the bat, like I which I didn't expect, right? I was like, oh, I'm going to channel Pleiadians, and I made a contact symbol for that, and I just went into a trance, and the group was like, we are Mira, and we are here, like, you know, all of that. I'm like, oh, interesting. And then I got on Google and I type in Mira Pleiadians, and it's like a collective other people have channeled. I'm like, oh, I'm doing something. So I just kept practicing that and practicing that. And I started channeling a bunch of different beings to see what would come through. And I found the ones that really sticked the most were the ones from Bashar's civilization, the Sasani beings. Especially because they were kind of the ones that really helped me wake up. I felt so comfortable, so drawn to them. And the connection feels so strong and consistent that they have been the collective that I've chosen to work with. And then I have a guide who uses the name Ryok or Ryok. He has a few different ways he's known because of how the name's been interpreted by both me and other people, but they essentially don't have names, as their species has said, but it's sort of a convenience term. But that's the main being that I channel. And I've been working with him specifically for probably about, I don't know, time's getting wiggly. I want to say 2 years. I might be overshooting it, but feels like it may have been that long. Maybe we'll see. But anyway, that's a little bit about my story, how I got started. And yeah, it's the best ride ever. And I find myself too applying the information now, kind of like with Bashar, where I was just listening and absorbing. I kind of was doing the same thing with my own guide, which is kind of strange, you know. But then as my heart started opening more, I was like, oh, I'm going to do what this being that's coming through me says. Let's see what happens. And then it is now a process where I'm, you know, constantly experiencing more evolution and more of myself. And yeah, I have a lot of love for these beings and for all the beings that people are bringing through. So anyway, thanks everyone for listening to my tale.
Beautiful. Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. It's, yeah, I think that what we should maybe just open up the Q&A. What do you guys think about that? And get some
I
fields.
have a question.
Oh, please, Alan. Yeah.
I have a question for you, Justin.
Okay.
What is it about channeling that so fascinates you? I mean, you've spent weeks putting it together and studying everything. So, yeah, tell us.
Interesting. Similar to Tyler, my introduction was Bashar as well. I just resonated with that presence, and I couldn't explain why everything just rang true. And it came at a time where reality was becoming very much dreamlike, and I was seeing behind the current a bit, and I was getting guidance from these channels, you know, Abraham, Bashar, and I find myself that it's, how do you say it, obviously it's, the messages are very similar, and you can, but when you're kind of like playing a little bit of like a DJ and going between the different expressions of source, in this, perhaps it's one of its purest forms, you know, that self-confident knowing aspect where you don't even doubt it. And the person who's saying it, I realized Bashar, when Darryl Anka is Darryl Anka, for example, he will say, you know, he will be a human, you know, making mistakes. Bashar does not make mistakes. I've watched so many videos of him, even that what you think is a mistake is never really a mistake. And then you're like, okay, this is a different type of intelligence. This is a different type of classification of consciousness, something that understands itself on a level that we are beginning to understand ourselves as obviously Gary talked about too, the idea of the blending. You begin to take that frequency, as I think Tyler did, incorporate into your own being, and kind of, how do you say, it allows yourself to express your own inner self more, because it's all from within. We all can tap into that universal knowledge, but it's nice to see channelers stepping up in the channel entities, like literally just freestyling it, saying it, and not doubting it. That's where we always, like people like Trump, for example, who's obviously channeling something, you know, but you can see how he's because he believes it so much. But we can still kind of say, does that resonate with you? And I feel like, and I think there's a lot of fear mixed in that message, so it's not just the self-confidence, and it's also the ideas, when Bashar talks about the prime radiant, if you've heard about that concept, when I heard it the first time, I was like, yeah, of course, that's how reality works. It just made sense in that moment. All the physics that I learned about, that you have one little particle, a subatomic, just to visualize that, infinite space, infinite speed. There you have your solution for how everything could be one thing, because obviously infinite space, infinite speed means it's everywhere at once. And okay, that rang true. And so many other concepts that, and other channelers may use different ways of describing reality a little bit. He talks about higher self, others talk about inner self or inner being, and but I don't think any of them want to say it's a hierarchical kind of understanding. It's just, I think some people resonate better with the idea of it being a higher mind, higher, that it's still, but it's still you, it's still like the axis is always there. It's just trusting it and not like doubting it because you were told it's not true, that we have to look outside for this information. And I've discovered in myself, that's why, the confirmation has come through that as well. But
was there ever any doubt? Because for me, it took me 2 years when someone first told me about Ramtha, 35,000-year war, to like get beyond my belief system to go to a channeling, which changed my life and my perspective and my worldview and everything. Actually, but it took a while for it to sink in.
That's an interesting point, because I did study philosophy, and I went through that whole but thought processes of, scientific methods and understanding. But when I had my spiritual awakening, it was so obvious to me, and yours was perhaps the moment with Ramtha that literally, then after that, you knew what was being said has truth to it.
Yeah, I knew I was more than my body, and I knew that this must also be a greater consciousness. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, and that just opened the door, and that's, I think we all have our input. Like, some people don't need to listen to channelers, obviously, but I feel like it's a tool that helps people, discover themselves, this inner voice, because it becomes so loud, and when anybody watches the channelers, you see also the presence that comes through the energy. We begin to read the energy first too, and and you felt the energy with Bashar when you were in the room with him in that interview, and that was literally palpable, right? And
yes, absolutely. But did you have any point where you had to get over a belief system or something? I'm just curious, because I think everyone listening and in the audience probably has gotten there, but for people who may see this on YouTube and say, wow, what is it? So a little bit, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, no, I did. I was led to material a little bit like, obviously, Gary, you get the book first and you just kind of like toss it. I was reading some Darren Brown, the mentalist, and how he was debunking the idea of mediumship. And that at that time, that seemed plausible to me. I was like, oh yeah, this is bullshit. I was like, they talk ghosts coming through people, and they showed the shaking table, like pictures that were obviously fake and stuff. I was like, oh yeah, this, Darren, of course, I believe that he understands it because he's using the same methods, and I trusted that. Yeah, okay, that makes sense as all. But then, yeah, when you see the light and you see the truth, you can't deny it anymore. And then it just was, when it happened to me, and then there's different types of channeling. So obviously, I attract into my reality a lot of stuff that resonates with me. Just the information that comes to me, I know it's there for a reason. In the beginning, I did get exposed to channelings that try to paint the idea of what's going on as being not perfect, or something is wrong. And I began to not resonate with that idea so much. I began to see that, okay, a galactic group that wants to intervene and let us, protect us doesn't make sense. It's there obviously, but it's not like they're so concerned about, changing things or forcing things upon us. And some channelers, it seems like the material they're tapping into is going in that direction. So there are, I don't want to say that it's all for me, right? I resonate with certain ones that, and all the channelers that were on yesterday and on today, I had talked to them, and I know that reflection and that resonance is there. And that's just, that's part of my journey, I guess. And for you as well.
Yeah, for everyone watching, I would say as well.
Awesome.
Thank you.
No, I thank for that, Alan. And I think, maybe because I think there must be questions coming up in the Q&A. People, please, I'm seeing that there are no questions. So that's, yes.
One thing I'd like to add to that is that when I started channeling, I thought the only channel was Esther. And so I immediately started searching around, and I found a bunch of different channels that were all saying this, all completely aligned with the message. There was no inconsistencies. They all had unique ways of expressing it, but was all the same information expressed in a unique way. And I said, well, what is the possibility of that happening? How could I channel this, which is completely compatible with Abraham and Bashar and Story Waters and everyone else? And so I got really curious like you did too. And so I started on my podcast inviting other channels in and having these conversations, and you get greater depths, but it is all consistent. Mm-hmm. And that's the proof that I took to heart, is that, now we have hundreds and hundreds of hours and millions of words of writing just from Joshua that is completely aligned with everyone else. This can't be made up. It is something of higher intelligence coming through, and it is so beneficial to so many people's lives when they start adopting the idea that we are just living in a limited state of duality that is an illusion. And if we can just start to intend to see past that illusion, we'll be guided to all these experiences that bring more clarity.
Right.
And that's what we all really want.
Well, I just want to give a little history of channeling as far as I know it. It's not a new phenomenon. Everyone's like interested in channeling. Well, in recent history, there was Jane Roberts Seth in the 70s. You pick up any book by Seth, it makes total sense and will realign your personal reality. That's one of the great books of Jane Roberts or Seth, the nature of personal reality. So we go back in time, there was Edgar Cayce in the 30s, who was called the Sleeping Prophet, and he brought through a lot of wisdom about medicine, and it's still functional. I'm using this Edgar Cayce battery called the Radiac, which is made of nickel and zinc that you hook up to these electrodes on your wrists and ankles. You put it in cold water, it generates a weak current, and I get the best, most restful sleeps when I do that. And that's just recent phenomenon channeling. But of course, it goes back in time. The first theater, I think, was people who were channeling the gods in ancient Greece. And when they could no longer channel, they started to write it down. And that's how theater began. They put on these masks, they would become the voice of the gods, and then it evolved into human consciousness. But even if we go back to the Old Testament, the prophets were the channels of the spirit, and you look at the original literature in Greek. Homer says, "O Muse, speak through me, that I may speak of those great men of old." And it's not new. This is an ongoing developmental process. And we, I think, are coming into the golden age of channeling, which is so exciting. It's like the Renaissance. It's like we are beginning to realize that we are non-local. We are telepathic. We are taking up communications, and it's accepted more and more as we move into this century and this time frame. I think it's going to be a civilization awakening, an awakening for the planet, that non-local reality is real. It exists, and channeling is one aspect, and remote viewing and telepathic communication. This is the new humanity, and we're all here to access who we are. It's not like, you know, your cell phone, it's not generating the voice, it's receiving the voices. And so, you know, if the cell phone breaks, it doesn't mean you stop getting calls. So it's like that. You still, the signal exists, whether there's a vehicle or not. It's nice having a vehicle, of course, because we can relay it to everyone on this level. So this is where we're moving into. It's very exciting, and it's a revolution, and everyone here is a revolutionary. So
absolutely. Yeah, that's I mean, I think that what you mentioned, of course, is a good point. Is like, I think we're at the next step where, you know, for like Tesla, for example, he would be able to channel this is, I think, maybe Bashar mentioned this, but he said he could channel the idea of a device in front of him in 3-dimensional and play around it, take apart the parts before it's actually been created. So we're looking at possibilities here of jumps in our technology and our expressions that I think we're beginning, the people who open up to the idea of channeling, accept it, can tap into, you know, things that are obviously being sent to us from our higher mind or from other races that have that technology. And you know, Edgar Casey, I'm sure was, yeah, I mean, that what was that name of that thing that you
this is called a radiac. It's it's geared to human frequency, and you get it, and you cannot share it with anyone after you've charged it up with your own energy, and it cycles energy, it cycles frequencies through your body. And I have the best, most restful sleep. You have to put it in cold water and activate the electrical charge, but you can get it, you know, where they Bear.com, BAAR is an Edgar Casey company, and so much of what Edgar Casey brought through as healing is still usable today. And just what comments on what you were saying, I think all the great inventions were channeled. You know, to talk about, Edison used to talk about holding a weight when he was falling asleep, and when he dropped the weight, he'd be like in this half state and get these ideas for invention. So that's the engines of our culture's channeled information.
Yeah, all novels and all books and all that, all movies, you know, all that's channeled.
Music, I was just
Music.
looking at what John Lennon said about Dream Number 9. He says, this thing just came to me. And it's actually, it's a great TED talk by Elizabeth Gilbert, who talks about Genie and the genius. And she says, she tells a story about Tom Waits driving in his car, and the song is coming to him, and he's driving in traffic, and he says, can't you see I'm driving? So I think that came back to him. But yeah, this is what moves us forward.
Yeah, I think it's and just acknowledging it as the first step. I mean, this is the beginning of, you know, obviously in ancient times, as you mentioned, it was more, we're talking about even like Atlantis, all this. I think they obviously understood this, and therefore they had access to ideas that we're beginning to access now. And I'm thinking, I don't see any in the Q&A, any questions. So the audience, my suggestion would be, what do you guys think about taking the break now for 10 minutes, and then we can open up to the channelers channeling the entity's messages, whatever they're inspired to just tell us, for whatever time they need, and then the Q&A can be opened up to the channel entities.
Great.
And does that sound good? Yeah, I can't hear the audience, so I'm guessing they have to agree. So
that should be doable. I have a white noise machine that's on. Is that able to be picked up? Is it?
No, I don't hear it.
Good, good.
Oh, does it help you get in the state?
Well, it's sort of, it helps me, I think, feel more insulated because I live with other people, right? I have housemates.
Mm.
So sometimes I hear them moving around. Sometimes I can like kind of like when I'm in that trance, like the psychic bubble's so expanded, I can feel like other people's chi. So I feel like the noise machine kind of helps to break up that awareness so I can stay a little bit more focused. So when I'm living with people, it's a lifesaver. When I'm without, living with people, though, I can channel without the machine pretty easily.
Is nature the best place for you too? Also, like if you're like, do you get like stronger?
It's powerful. I've done channelings in nature, not even for people, like for nature. You know what I mean? Like I would like go into like a beautiful spot in the woods and would channel for like trees. I would just channel and speak to like the forest. And some of the most powerful material I think I've like come across from myself came from those interactions. So it's channeling in nature is very powerful, very, very amazing.
Nice, cool. I guess we're all back, and yeah, in this portion for the audience that you guys know, you can put your questions in the Q&A for when the channel entities come through. But first, the entities will, when they come through, they'll maybe give a preamble, and we'll come. Alan and I will come back to what we see in the Q&A for questions, and you can raise your hands as well. There's a little tab, and we can pick some people out to speak their questions and ask directly. So yeah, I guess we're waiting. I guess Roxanne's going to be back in a sec, but yeah, if you guys want to do your thing, and I think you already are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like it's really strong. I don't know if anyone else can feel that, but
Awesome.
Yeah, it feels like getting absorbed into a bubble.
I'm looking forward to this because I'm actually curious who comes through with Roxanne as well, because I'm pretty sure Joshua is coming through Gary, and we're going to have Ryok or Rio coming through you. Is that true? Or
yeah, at this point he's like the primary being I channel. It's like so easy to tune into him. So
nice.
Yeah.
How long is each session going to be, Justin?
Well, this is I like to let non-physical determine these type of things. So
Right.
I want to just open it up to the whatever 5-10 minutes, whatever that the challenges wish to express something about this moment in time. Right before the winter solstice,
Right.
the conjunction. All this, the mask, letting go of the mask. I'm just wondering if that will come through, and yeah, and then afterwards, after the three speak, we can open the floor up for questions that people can post in the Q&A section or raise their hands, and Alan, you and I will, pick and then just express it to the group, and whoever feels inclined to answer, whatever entity would like to answer or add to something, it's open.
Someone says in the chat they might want to ask a question in German. You see that?
Yeah, I can translate that into English. That's fine.
Great. Okay, we'll get to that later. All right, I'm excited.
Yes. Cool. So I guess we'll have, why not, because I'm just looking at the order here, like if Joshua would like to speak, then Ryok, and then whoever's, Roxanne, do you have an idea who's coming through, or is it, I'm excited. Like, I'm just, cool. And then, yeah, so we'll just leave you guys in silence and whatever comes up.
Okay, great. You want to do now?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. We are thrilled to be here. The topic is authenticity. It's our favorite topic of all. It is simply a matter of living in physical reality as you would live in the non-physical. As you can imagine, in the non-physical, you are a being of love. That's all you are. You are existing in a state of love and acceptance. Love and acceptance are the same thing. In the non-physical, you are focused in the moment in acceptance. There is nothing other than the physical than that moment. And so in the physical reality, you're confused, or you're under the illusion that time is a thing. And so you say, I lived in the past, I'm going to live in the future, things happen in the past, will happen in the future, and you're not as focused on the present moment. In the present moment, you can become your authentic self, which is the same version of you that exists in the non-physical. That is a being of love. In essence, you are a being of love. This is who you are. In the physical, you are confused to this. You are not accepting that you are a being of love. You think you're an individual living in a malevolent universe, having to protect yourself, having to be a certain structure in the way you develop your persona. None of this is true. As you become more and more authentic, you become more and more blended with the being that exists within you in the non-physical, and you allow that being to move through you in an authentic way. And authenticity is simply not being limited by fear. Your non-physical self is not within the limitations of fear, while you in a physical state, in a human state, tend to act. Sometimes you're able to push past fear and you act on what you're inspired to act on, and often you're limited by fear. And the fear limitation is simply the illusion that there is things to worry about, that the bad things could happen to you, and this is simply not the case. Everything that happens to move you along a journey of self-discovery to discover the inner being of you, the inner self, is asking to come out. And when you allow that to come out more and more and more, you're being more and more authentic. And that's all authenticity is. As we are going into this time together with you, in your planet, in your reality, wherever you may be in that reality, energies are coming through to allow you to move from the identified self into the limitless self. The identified self has within it limitations. You might call them limiting beliefs. You might call them structures to your persona designed to get you what you think you need, to manifest these desires you think you have. And truly, all of your true desires come from those pre-birth intentions. And first and foremost is to express love. What is it to express love? It is to accept what is, to accept yourself as perfect as you are, to accept all other people as perfect as they are, and to accept the present conditions as perfect as it is. In this idea of perfection, you move out of the fear consciousness and into the source love consciousness. And when you're acting in alignment with that source consciousness, you are flowing limitless energy from the non-physical to the physical, and your life will take a radical leap to the positive, to more love, to more acceptance, to more power, to anything that you can imagine being, doing, or having, but not from the limited self, the human self, but from the limitless, infinite self that exists within you.
Wow. Thank you, Joshua. And Tyler, would you like to channel?
Yeah, sure thing. I'll go in to the state. Thank you for the transmission as well, Joshua. All right, and we thank you all so much for the unique co-creation of this interaction. As always, it is our civilization's highest joy, passion, excitement to be able to speak to you and to all members of your species. We will begin the idea of the transmission with the following concept. Your authentic self is eternal, is unconditional. We will explain. Creation itself is totally, utterly without exception, perfect. There are no mistakes. Whatever is what needs to be. Therefore, you are the living embodiment of unconditional, authentic divinity. You can use your authentic, perfect, expressional energy to create experiences that superficially may look inauthentic, may look disingenuous. However, understand even the things in your reality that look inauthentic, that look disingenuous, are in fact authentic expressions of creation, because if that's what's occurring, that's what needs to be occurring in the moment for creation to be creation, for you to be yourself. Because remember, if one piece of the puzzle is not present, you have an incomplete puzzle. So recognize that even if you find yourself acting in a way that is inauthentic, or others acting in a way that is inauthentic, you can use that observation as a permission slip, as a form of recognition that the backdrop, the basal level to the reality experience is in and of itself authentic, thus giving validity to the inauthentic expression, thus giving worthiness to the inauthentic expression. For to judge the inauthentic expression pushes it further into what you would consider to be repression, which then multiplies more of what you don't prefer. So, in order to lighten up on yourselves, to experience more of what you prefer, see the divinity within all things that you encounter, because that is the authentic level, that is unconditional, that is eternally present, and that is the truest representation of who and what you are. You are never disconnected from who and what you are, even if you create a more superficial phenomenon of appearing to be disconnected from who and what you are. So, relax and know that in your relaxation, in your decision to allow the moment to be, you are basking in authenticity. And we thank you for your attention thus far in the opening transmission from our species. We will share more with you as the dialogue together continues.
Well, thank you, Ryok.
And thank you.
Yeah, Roxanne, how would you?
Hi, that's so awesome. Thank you.
It
That was
is.
fun. Yeah. I don't know. Let's see who comes. Bishiya toko. Mariaka. Chahiya. Hi, everyone. My name is Sylvester Sly. Some of you may know me as. All right. Let's understand just something in and of itself. What's not authentic is a point of view, which is the authenticity. Creators are a singularity, knowing creation in and of itself, and the value of the singularity. And each singularity is subjective to its own truth. So what do you own? You own your truth, right? And that truth gives you perception. Out of that perception of unconditional authentic, we created a portion of ourselves that would have the acquirement in reflection. I'm going to get back to that. That allows us to be inauthentic. But that in and of itself is on the existence side of things. If you follow the Sasani civilization, the Sasani, right? And you go by the 5 laws, which are absolutely fantastic. And one of those laws is you exist. So existence is over here, non-existence is over there. Non-existence is not, and existence is. So if everything over here is existence, it's all true because it's all reality, it's all life. So everything is the authentic. And even when you're playing the game of inauthentic, it's still authentic. It has to be. So let's say this. Let's say this. Okay, you're living in perspective of inauthentic. Okay, here's moon, right? How about rain? Let's get rain down here. Here's rain, right? So rain is a god, created as a fractal. Moon is a god, created as a fractal. And here's the god that creates this. And these are just points of view. So where's the lesser god? Where's the inauthentic? When it's all one, right? They're just perspectives, guys. But what's the value of human? Come on now. What's the value of human? The value of human is the innocence. The ability to actually experience a point of view not a self, because you are a what? You guys are talking about who's, like you're fucking owls. Who am I? Who am I? You're not a fucking owl. You're a what? You're a creator. I am. You can't get diminished from your own existence, law one. All right. So we create points of view. In the innocence of humanity is to have the mastery, the ability to come down into a hostile world to where you can get a bullet in your head as soon as you come and arrive on this planet and experience you're not a god. Now let's not run over that. Humans get diarrhea of the brain, right? What do you guys do? You run over everything with your perspective. You want to grab it. You want to shelve it. You want to wrap it up and say, I know something. Are you proud? Do you love me? Because you're always diving into the external to validate the internal. That's the separation. Good. Now you got a point of view. So here, let's look at that mastery, that innocence. You get to fear. You get to suffer. You get to know hope. You get disappointment. You get success. You get arrogance. You get hate. You get love. You get betrayal. You get to understand objectivity. Objectivity, the singularity that takes and covets truth from its own forgetfulness and create a reality that is absolutely real because we are creators of reality. So you create your innocence through separation. You forgot. You guys are using this term as they should know better. You guys are using this term, well, it's common sense. You have a school system that what? That shovels everybody into one size fits all, because that's the separation. That's not victimization. That's mastery. That's creation needing to know itself. Creation cannot be bound by one. Creation is one and all. There's nobody in charge of your chaos. That's maybe why you have conspiracy theories, because you're always looking for an answer. What about this? Huh? 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 Every morning, hey, I'm here. Look at me. I'm alive. I am. Thou shalt have no gods before me. Know that. Know that mastery inside, that you have the courage to come down here and evolve a species through your own love, through your own investigation. Yeah, you play the game of fear. Yes, you've been abused. Yes, you've done that. Yes, yes, yes to all your victimizations and causalities. Yes, yes to all your sexting and your bank accounts of unbelievable amounts. Stop. What about the mastery of it? There's 100 guides in your crew, and you're the only one who chose the physical incarnation. Only one out of your entire crew of guides, whether they're angels or kibbles or bits and lions and tigers, it doesn't matter who your guides are. You're always objectifying thing and hope. You're the one who had the brass balls to come down here and say, you know what? I'm going to adventure into separation and not know I'm a creator. So you got billions of selves that you're creating sequentialtaneously in the now, and you know them all in the now, and they're all you, they're expressions of you. They are the expression of I am, and then you find one that doesn't know it's all of those things. And then out of that, we use our arrogance, our separation, our skin, our religion, our separation of classes. We elect people that are in the same pool of our neighbors, and we promote them to hypocrites and political conspirators. We, the people, promote our own politicians to lead us, not for causality. By the way, causality can't exist in the now. It's a created idea, right? Remember the laws? There's no law that polarity is standard. There's no law that says time exists. It's created. Then you get to create cause and effect. Then you get to create intention. Hey guys, I get to intend to do something and I get to be disappointed if it fails. Look what I can do. We created this reality for the exquisite mastery of self-discovery. How can it be inauthentic? It's creation. Welcome to I am forever. You are life. I know it's hard to get over that. You want to have some kind of hope that you actually will die and get rid of this planet. You want to have a reason for all the suffering, all the slaughtering, that killing and murder, depending on the point of view, is justifiable. You want to have reasons, but that's your mastery. Can you have the humility? Can you have the surrender? Can you have the absolute? Meek shall inherit the earthness. To realize you chose a journey of self-discovery, not purpose. Oh, you can have all the purpose you want. Just start a church of veganism and just go and preach to everyone about animals, and then you'll create another church, and then people will love you, and they'll put you up in the pulpit, and they'll give you money. Yay! And then you'll live an authentic life doing that. But that's not the idea that we're offering. I don't give a fuck what anyone else offers. Here's what we're offering, because we're our own truth, right? Here's what we're offering, that you're a God and you forgot to come back to God. So if you want a purpose, wake up. Not wake up to the perils of the planet or what's happening in the victimizations and what the purpose is in the galactics and when the aliens are coming and go, oh my God, it's NDM, it's a twister. When's it going to happen? When's it going to happen? What about now? What about I am? What about, oh my God, I'm a God? How do I find that out? If you guys ever met Ramtha, here's an Atlantean that well, a Lemurian that got wiped out by the Atlanteans and created to be a God and killed what we think is an immeasurable amount of people, more than what's currently on your planet. And he wiped out billions of people to find God. Was that wrong? No, because he is being authentic. The authenticity that we speak of today is to know two things. The entire creation in and of itself is authentic because it's all true. All truths are true. You just have to have the courage to let go of a truth. Bashar said, but climbing the ladder of ascension, I can't move unless I let go of the old self, right? Good, okay. But let's look at the authentic. Let's look at, wow, my hate isn't because of them. My hate is I had the ability to create a portion of me that points of view along with an emotional relationship to that point of view that would give me the experience of hate. So I'm creating my reality, not through manifestation, not through all that. Law of attraction takes care of that. Did you guys ever wake up and need to create reality, create your body, create your sheets, create your bed, create gravity, create the toilet, create the coffee maker? I got to put the coffee maker. It's all there. It's all there. Stop. Realize you're creating your reality through your choices, and that's the vibration. Look. If vibration spoke on hope, don't you think the 80s would have made everyone rich? Don't you think it would all been done right now with all these affirmations, pinning everything? That's the projection. That's the authentic self projecting the echo of itself. I am not. I am not. I am a creator creating perspectives. This one here, maybe a Pleiadian. It knows it's God, but it doesn't go, oh my God, I'm God. It's a Pleiadian, and it's being that. This little God here named human didn't know. So it's looking for us authentic in vibrational certainty. But see, humans validate vibrational certainty through the privation of externalism. Scientists, authorities that we assign authoritative, not that are standardized, because look how many churches you have. That there was a standard, there should only be one, right? No, we're subjective. Wow, look at that. We objectified ourselves and we are I am. So this is starting to realize it's this. Hey, how you doing? Good. Wow. Yeah, look at that. I'm this. Whoop. Authentic is the moment in the now, not in time. Time is a projection of the memory created in the now that gives you a perspective of the future. Right? Now, oh my God, I want to buy this. Yeah, but if you buy that, you might not have the money to pay for that. Yeah, but that's not now. But you got to be safe and secure because mommy and daddy said be responsible. Oh yeah, you're right. I suck. I'm not going to choose what I love. So I'm being inauthentic in the moment to the self that's awakening from the fractal to this. So don't claim your shit on somebody else that says they're not authentic, because that's a perspective of your authenticity. But guess what? You can do that because that's how you create your reality. And if that person's accepted that they aren't inauthentic through your guys, well, that's their reality. So has there really ever been a victim? Has there really ever been someone who is brainwashed? Or is it the mastery of authenticity, knowing itself through the authentic of separation? Is the authentic your own existence? And in and of itself, you can find the portions of you and have the courage to let go. I am not hate. I am not hope. I am not intention. I am, and that's enough. Instead of the projected image of the externalism, then my vibration, which the universe speaks, by the way, it speaks vibration. It doesn't speak projection definition that contained in the moment of your own subjective universe, does it? No, because one man's trash is another man's treasure. So be your treasure and not someone else's trash. And that takes courage. It takes courage to find the self, and it's a journey. You're not going to find it tomorrow. You're going to find it in the now. And since the now is never, you never know when you're going to have it. So be now and start to choose the reflection of the self that says, I deserve this. Here's an obligation. I'm supposed to do this. And if I don't, I have 1,000 reasons that are going to tell me if I don't, I'm going to fail. But you know what? I have enough to know that I am. I don't know it in its totality. I don't know it in its authenticity. But if I don't take a chance on myself to really attract the reality of channelers and awake and all this stuff that we're projecting as a purpose, if I don't have the courage to discover it, well, then what am I doing here? I might as well find out if I'm a guide. And I'm going to choose the authentic self that I know it is. And I don't know what that is in time. And I don't know what that is in the certainty of a definition. I just know I feel, and I'm brave enough to choose the courage of this feeling, this authentic feeling that says, everything else is wrong. If I do this, it's going to fail. But I feel, no, I'm going to go ahead. And like Roxanne, brought this crazy bitch to the table. Here she is. And there were thousands and thousands of daggers being thrown at her. There was physical threats. There were psychological threats. There was everything. And she said, no. She said, no. No. You see me as you do. Good. Authentic. To find out. And then she brought this. And you've seen her. If anyone watched her for the last 7 years, her hair changed, her body changed, her face changed, her attitude, everything changed because she's not the constant of projection. She's the constant of change. She's the evolution of self. She's the discoverer of I am that doesn't project itself in the image sustained and timed and defined for the outside acceptance of self. Because I am is enough. Authentic lies in the moment. And it's not defined. And you are no longer lead or leaders or led. You are creators. Enlighten people with the authentic that lies within your kingdom. To give and encourage those who choose their own authenticity to enlighten themselves in their journey forward without no one holding their hand, but the encouragement of grace that you've been chosen to exist as your way showers. Booyah.
Whoa. Wow. That was epic. Wow. Thank you very much, Sly.
You're welcome.
And yeah, I think we do have some questions that popped up in the Q&A. So somebody, it seems like we have 3 from.
I have a question too.
Sure, go ahead.
I just had a question, but we can go to the people online first, and then after we finish.
Well, it's all right. Do you want to ask the questions from online, or shall I ask them? Or would you want to go?
Well, the first one I wanted to just comment on: are emotions the expression of the creator or of the fractal human? I think people, this is my opinion, people talk about emotions and it's different than feelings. I think emotions are the human drama. I think feelings is the true nature of the expression of being, but I'm curious about what other people might think here. Was that directed towards anyone in particular?
Well,
maybe
I think we can leave it to the 3 channelers, channel beings. I see that, I think it looks like Joshua, or would you like to say something about this? Or, yeah, let's get understood.
Unmute, Gary. Unmute.
You're muted, Gary.
Your emotions are your guidance system. So simply in the moment, you are judging something in your reality as good or bad. You are seeing a reality that is not true when you judge it as wrong or bad. Your inner self is guiding you always to the true reality. The true reality is that everything is good, everything is authentic, everything is working out. From your human perspective, you have a choice. Is this for me, or is this happening to me? Is this good? Is this bad? Is this perfect? Is this imperfect? When you're choosing to believe it's imperfect or looking at anything from the limited perspective, you are going to receive an indication, guidance in the form of emotion. That emotion is coming from your inner self through you. The label of the emotion can point to a limiting belief about that is triggered. So something happens in your reality, you judge it as wrong, you react to it, and it is due to the existence of a limiting belief. A limiting belief is simply a belief that does not have enough information. The belief at the time will cause you to think it's wrong, protect yourself, move away from it, hope it's different, wish you were different, wish something else was happening. And in that time, you're not acting as the creator, you're acting as the victim in that response to something in your reality which you perceive as imperfect and hope it could be different, or you act to change it. When you receive a positive emotion, on the other hand, you are seeing reality as it truly is. You're understanding the nature of your reality that you've created. It's all happening for you. You can see it because you feel good. And this lies because you have a beneficial belief in that area. And so your vibration is a mix of your limiting beliefs and your beneficial beliefs. And as you alter those beliefs to make them less limiting and more empowering, you raise your vibration, and then you are able to accept more and move to expanded level where you'll have new experiences looking at different limiting beliefs so that you can change to become a vibrational match to that which you want. If you consistently say things are wrong and consistently feel negative emotion and consistently prop up that limiting belief and make it bigger and bigger and bigger and create a momentum of more limitation, well, you are simply exploring the inauthentic version of you. There's nothing wrong with that. You came here to explore that illusion, to explore the separation. But if you're listening to this call now, either live or in the future, you must understand that there is a pre-birth intention for you to discover who you truly are. And in that discovery of who you truly are, you must work with those limiting beliefs. You must adjust those limiting beliefs so they become less limiting and more empowering. And as you do that consciously by proving that each limiting belief is false, is untrue, finding evidence that proves that it's true, you adjust that vibration and move along your path of self-discovery. You may encounter many, many, many manifestation events that point to certain limiting beliefs. Something in your reality has happened. Maybe you have a fight with a spouse and you say, the spouse is wrong. The spouse should not treat me like that. I shouldn't be treated like that. But what you're doing is you're experiencing a temporary state of victimhood and receiving the negative emotion from your inner self who sees the true reality. And so your inner self is always guiding you to that true reality. If you can listen to those emotions, not take them personally, not judge the outside conditions, not fear them, and just say, well, some limiting belief has been triggered. Some fear is propping up because I perceive myself in this moment to be a victim and not the creator. This is simply guidance. I can reframe this entire event to see how it's for me. I can choose to see it from the higher perspective. I can choose to get back into alignment with my inner self and look at the true reality rather than the illusion. And in doing this, you are marking your ascension to the discovery of who you truly are, which is the God of your creation.
Thank you, Joshua. That was very nicely said. And I don't know, does Ryok, would you like to add something to that? Or?
Okay, one moment.
Sure.
All right, what we will share in relationship to the idea of your emotions is the following. You have what you might consider to be feeling senses that are relevant to the idea of your soul, your oversoul, the fundamental levels of your own consciousness. Those feeling senses represent the basal levels of your being. Unconditional love, appreciation, joy, ecstasy, bliss, passion. Again, those qualities are built in. They are the foundation. Now, when you incarnate into the physical reality experience, the idea is you create an illusion of separation. So, due to that self-created limitation, which is not necessarily negative, it's just limiting, the awareness of those basal levels, those basal feelings, sensations become a little bit more limited as you go through the experience of forgetting whom and what you truly are. So, in terms of emotions, we would classify the basal level of emotions to be that, the fundamental feeling senses that represent your core, that represent who you are. Of the secondary level, more superficial, you have what you would consider to be human emotions. Human emotions are mediated, organized, directed by the idea of the belief systems that you use to create your experience of physical reality. When a negative belief system is used, a negative emotion then ensues. When a positive belief system is used, a positive emotion then ensues. The resonance of the positive emotions that you generate on the human level from the positive beliefs are in alignment with the idea of that fundamental primary level that represents the qualities of your true self. So in other words, when you choose positive points of view, positive perspectives in your life, you are allowing for yourself to then generate positive human emotions, which are organized by the beliefs and also have a physical component that you would consider to be your biochemistry. So in a sense, these human emotions have a physical entanglement. And the idea is that type of entanglement with your biology, with your mind, opens up the idea of an access point within your consciousness. It opens the aperture of your consciousness up to allow in more of those fundamental primary levels that represent the qualities of your spirit. When you use negative belief systems to apply meaning to things in your life, the idea is that aperture closes. And your biochemistry then, as a result, produces compounds that seem to reinforce the idea of the negative emotional energetic experience. So, from our perspective, this is how your emotions operate. You have the primary foundational levels, which in a sense fluctuate and change, but in ways that relate to the positive qualities that are unconditional to you. You then have the secondary level, which is the human emotional level, that is organized and created by your belief systems that either allow in more qualities of that primary level or limit the allowance of those qualities. One of the things we like to share to assist all of you in understanding this a little bit more is the idea of what you would consider to be the archetypes that exist in your stories. The healer, the hero, the sage, the lover, the teacher, so on and so forth. All of these different archetypes represent the idea of the different major themes of incarnational experience. These themes may be qualities that you experience yourself exploring and applying in different ways. Each theme has a positive and negative expression. You explore either a positive or negative expression of an archetypal theme based off of your own belief systems. So you all are the character in your own story. And you can create the idea of being a hero, so to say, or a villain, based off the idea of the beliefs that you're using. Now understand, we are using some terms that translate into how your physical mind organizes its experience of reality. For you use story structure to understand yourself. And we will comment a little bit more on this. Even though you may use negative belief systems to create villains in your reality, recognize that's a superficial experience. Because again, the basal level of the reality is unconditional love, is joy, is passion. The superficial levels, what you consider to be the incarnational experience, is a game, is a play. So even though you may experience yourself in a way that may seem negative or villainous, or other individuals in a way that may be experienced as negative or villainous, remember, That's just a play. That's just acting. And the character is getting into the role through the belief systems. So if you ever find that certain themes in your reality that you're exploring have these negative qualities, take a moment to really check in with yourself and investigate the story, the opinion, the belief that you're using to contextualize that thematic experience. And as you ask to receive that, and you then become aware of whatever that belief is, you are then in an opportunity where you can say, oh, look, that's an interesting story. However, I have the ability, because I am an infinite co-creator, I am the dreamer dreaming the physical reality experience, to let that go and to choose a new story that represents the positive versions of this theme, the positive versions of whatever archetypal energy I am exploring in my life that assists me in more fully exploring me. And we thank you for your question.
Wow, thank you, Rio. That was beautiful. Sly, would you like to? Yeah, thank you. Sly, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, so you came here separated and you started to covet, C-O-V-E-T. Coveting lasts in the memory of time. So your emotions and experience that you validated at that certain idea that assigned that experience to an emotion, whether it's positive or negative, is irrelevant. Why? Because this world, you guys, is a limitation. So don't think for 1 second joy is the end of you. And don't think for 1 second suffering is the end of you. It is literally beyond what you would call polarity. But you don't feel emotion because you're using the memory to solicit that emotional reaction in the now according to the situation that happens right away that your mind interprets through the belief system. And then you get the wonderful experience of an emotion that lies in time. If you are relative to yourself in the now and allowance of it and allow the change to be, and as the Sasani said, maybe tell yourself a different story about this or allow the story to play out in a different perspective, then you can start to acquire the ability return of motion. Now, motion is the constant change of yourself, and you don't have to define it because you're looking for identity. That's why you guys got to be something. That's why you guys have resumes. That's why you guys, I did this and I did this and I, great. I yourself to death. Wonderful. But what you are really is experiencing the projection of that emotion through time in the memory. But if you're in the now, you're only emotion. You can't assign it to an experience of the quality of human, whether it's positive or negative. You only can assign it to what it is in the nature of the unconditional by the singularity, using its own persona to interpret that reality. And it's not confined to a definition that would lie as positive, hope, joy, success, because those are limitations. Because they're contained to the singularity that reflects on it through memory, and the memory in and of itself is a projected self of time that lies within the construct of the human relationship. So go beyond humanity, get to the now, and then start to realize yourself as motion that doesn't see things, but it's not going to happen. And don't play the little la fairy game up here. Oh, I don't see negative. If you see negative and you're experiencing negative, own that shit. Make it yours because you created it. Why? Because you came here separated. So you're like, wow, this really hurts. Man, I'm disappointed. I'm very angry right now. I need a couple of dishes to break. Let me throw something through the TV. We can get a new TV, but I got to get this out. I got to know that I am this truth through the absolute allowance and surrender to my own creation so I may know myself. Because how does transfiguration occur? Anyone figure that one out yet? By becoming it. Why do you think it's called law of attraction? It's not law of attraction to push it away. It's what's the match to you so you can understand the nature of yourself. And you're an evolutionist. You're an explorer. So when creation has come and you're objecting to an emotion, that emotion is giving you a signal like Joshua said, hey boys, hey, you got emotion going on right now. Maybe you'd let her look at the way you're reacting to reality. Now look at there is one thing that you have on this planet. Assholes. They're everywhere, right? So you can love people, but don't use that human love. Don't use that purpose love. Because we're really not love. Because love is what? Love is another what? Come on now. Translation, definition, projection. It's the nature of ourselves. We are unconditional, a state of being. We don't go around and go, I'm love. Oh, I should love you. because we are that in nature. Remember, you're journeying. So you're projecting ideas of stepping stones to get to the end. Good, good, good. But don't look at that as permanency. Look at that as the next discovery. So if you see a person that's acting like an asshole and you're like, oh my God, I attracted an asshole in my life. I must be an asshole. The mirror says I'm an asshole. I'm an asshole. You're an asshole. So everyone's an asshole. You're not. You're just seeing the value of that. Now, if they're triggering you, they're pissing you off, they're emotional, then that idea is an attraction, not a purpose. Oh, no, let's not make it a hero. Let's just see that as an opportunity. Says, wow, I'm seeing this guy as an asshole. Is he an asshole? Yeah, he's just being a dick. Okay, good, he's a dick. I can accept him for that because he's an unconditional creator that created himself in a conditioned state of being, and I can't manage his own belief system because he covered it from his teachers, his mommies, his daddy, his environment. So he's his own singularity through an idea, personality built because of his own journey. You know, it's like two people, born in China, born in Zimbabwe. They meet right here. Who's wrong? Nobody, right? So they're just seeing themselves, but you can allow them to be that. But now you got to look at the self. Now here's where humility comes in. Is that emotion that I'm having, that a human idea that I lie because mommy and daddy said that guy's wrong, so I got to make it wrong, or I had an experience that happened. If that happens again, then this will happen, and I can't have that. Oh my God. So you got say, no, I'm going to be all grown up now. I'm going to get off the child. I'm going to get off the playground. I don't need to be a child. Today I'm going to be mature. Watch this. I'm enough. And that's my belief. So I'm seeing them as an emotional content of value that lies on my own perspective of positive and negative and everything in between, which is just a world of limitations, a little dreamscape that I'm doing. Yay, me, I'm a master. Do I have enough humanity to accept that belief system and then take that and integrate it back so you may know it? And then when you know it, the value of it disappears, so you don't react. You just accept them. So it's like, oh, look at the little baby. He's playing on the playground. Yes, he is. He's being an asshole today. Bye. And you start to focus on the world that is your truth, your authentic, right? And then the emotions start to lessen. So let's all think back 10 years, okay? 20 years. Everyone had an image of his self. None of you are that same self. You have a memory of that self. The way you acted, the way you ate, the way you talked, the way you walked, the way you projected yourself, the clothes you wear, the way you needed. You've evolved that emotional relationship. But those emotional relationships were objectified as a purpose. But that's the emotion still lies. Now, look at you. What are you attached to today that's a dependency? Who's your drug dealer? Is it your husband? Is it your job? Is it your employer? Is it your image? Is it your car? Is it your house? What is it that you have to take the outside authority and value that so you can have your own existence known through the projection? That emotional relationship will tell you. When you lose that, you start to get the law of attraction. It's a flow, and you don't have to go get it. So there's really no pursuit of anything because it's law of attraction. It's coming to you. So then you start to feel motion of life, the transfiguration of yourself through allowance. But you got to put down the little blockers. But those blockers aren't easy. Oh, no, you're going to rip yourself apart. You're going to probably vomit on the floor because you're in such fear. But that's the mastery, is to transfigure your own truths, the evolver. But you're transfiguring a self that didn't know it was a God. Tell me a greater story than that, and I'll sell you a bridge in Brooklyn. Booyah.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you, Sly.
Thank you.
This is man. I'm just enjoying watching this. Yeah, Alan, please.
No, I was just saying there was a common theme in all these answers about coming back to the ownership of the self and the investment in our own divine God nature, and as far as authenticity to acknowledge our feelings, whatever they are. This is what I got from Sly and Rio and Joshua. Like, we are the gods of our creation, own it, basically. Yeah. You were muted there for a second, Sly. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, it seems like there is this higher consciousness pointing us in a more mature future for our species, which is so nice to see.
Definitely.
This next question is something I've wondered about from the same person, about conspiracy theories are the expression of someone wanting to have an easy answer, or are they an alternative reality, or are the result of fear or something else? So conspiracy theories, whatever that might mean, I think there's different meanings for that to many beings, but I'm curious about what all our entities have to say about that. Do you have anything to add, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, do we would we like to keep the order still going, or Joshua?
Let's change it up.
Change it up. Okay. How about you, Ryok? Would you like to hit it off?
Yes, one moment.
Sure.
All right, and what we will say on the notion of conspiracy theories is the following. Understand that, as you know, all truths are true. All belief systems create their own energetic equivalent of experience for the individual that is utilizing them. Each of those experiences are their own unique, discrete, parallel reality experiences. So understand that what you consider to be conspiracy does occur. These types of things do happen. You have individuals that gather together for different reasons, in secret, in insulated environments, to be able to create certain outcomes. This happens. However, understand that that idea of conspiracy is different in a sense than what we would consider to be a conspiracy theory. Understand that what many individuals consider to be conspiracy theories are, in and of themselves, stories, beliefs, ideas. That doesn't mean they're not true for the individuals believing in them. That does not mean those ideas or stories do not create reality experiences that represent them. Understand they absolutely do, because your beliefs will create for you energetic experiences in reality that match those belief systems. So, should an individual utilize opinions, beliefs, stories that represent conspiracy theories being the way reality works, being the way your society is organized, those energetic effects will play out for those individuals. Those effects take place in their own unique parallel reality experience. You're all in your own unique parallel reality experiences. So side by side, in a reality where negative stories that relate to conspiracies are unfolding, are occurring, there's another parallel reality where no such thing is taking place. They both exist side by side, and each of them are selected by belief systems and actions that represent them. So, negative timelines, negative realities that are an energetic match for what you consider to be the conspiracy theory narratives do exist. But it is up to you whether or not that will be your experience. The way those effects play out may not look identical to the nature of the conspiracy theory, but it's the underlying energy of that belief system that will determine whatever that negative manifestation is. And it's up to you if you prefer to use that or not. We observe many of you do not prefer to use those beliefs, yet some of you choose them because you believe in some way that you are powerless and that your external reality has the ability to create separate from you. Remember, you are all that is. You are all things expressing itself as a microcosm. So even what you consider to be outside forces, even what you consider to be other entities, other individuals, other people, are all extensions of your true fundamental consciousness. So even if it looks like another person's creating something, even if it looks like an entity or an organization is creating something, remember that those things are expressions or extensions of you. So it's technically you giving rise to that phenomenon. It's not the ego you, the physical mind you, that's giving rise to those things. It's a bigger you. It's a collective you. So when you observe those other forces, those other beings, those other organizations, and you label them as negative individuals, you label them as somehow harmful to you, harmful to your society in a way that is unconditional, then you define those greater aspects of yourself in those ways, thus giving rise to different effects in in your reality experience that represent energetically those definitions. You don't have to choose that. You don't have to choose that. As we've said, side by side with that type of reality, there's a positive reality experience that represents, again, the idea of that fundamental basal level of yourself. That is unconditional love, passion, joy, ecstasy, bliss. Use the belief systems, use the ideas that represent those qualities towards all things you experience in your life and act those ideas out. It's one thing to hold on to an idea. It's another thing to live as if that idea has always been true. Because that's how you become the leading actor or actress in the movie that you prefer. By acting those energies out. And you will, through continuing that direction, that is positivity, with no expectation of what needs to occur, you will experience the idea of more of what you prefer, more of your positive energy reflected back to you. And when you find the idea of yourself experiencing different reflections that are challenging, that may look negative, that may look conspiratorial, you have the opportunity to not push them away, not reject them, not to label them negatively, but to validate them with love, with acceptance, knowing that they are their own unique parallel reality. They are their own unique experience that, as we've said, has no ability to create your reality for you because they're not separate. So understand, you have the ability to choose, and we encourage you, choose what rings true for you in your heart. You'll always know. It's always there. You're never separate from your heart. You're never separate from your guidance. Pay attention to its beat. Pay attention to its rhythm. Feel the love that it channels into your physical expression. And make choices in your life that represent that love, that passion, that joy. And you'll experience more of that each and every day in different ways. And we thank you for your attention thus far.
Wow, amazing. Love that. Either Joshua or Sly, if you would like to add something.
Okay. We absolutely agree with everything that was said. It is absolutely the truth. You exist in a reality. There are things conspiring in this reality. And we shall say that from a higher perspective, everything is conspiring for one thing. Everything is conspiring to lead you on a journey of self-discovery. Everything that happens in your reality is designed to move you along this journey to self-discovery, to discover that you are the source creator of this reality. Every aspect of this reality, no matter what it is, your date of birth, the parents that you grew up with, the educational system you are in, your friends, your family, your job, your identification of self. And then comes around this idea that, are you being the victim in this reality, or are you being the creator of the reality? And so a conspiracy theory could pop up amongst your friends, social media, your attention is captured by it, and you tend to think, this is true. This is proof that I am not creating my reality, that outside forces can impact my reality. And you use this as part of your limited belief system to do what you think to protect yourself. You think that by understanding the conspiracies, you're somehow safer or safe from them. This is the reason you watch news. From your perspective, everything is happening out there, causing you to feel a certain way. And because something happens out there and you judge it as good or bad, right or wrong, when you judge it as right, then you're feeling the negative emotion because you're actually seeing that this thing is there to support you from your belief system. If you're judging it as wrong, then you're perceiving that you need to change your reality to get rid of the wrong. But the wrong is simply pointing out the fact that you're approaching life from that position of victimhood, not the victimhood in the victimhood way that you might perceive it as that person is not taking care of themselves, they're in danger, they need to stand up for themselves, in the belief that outside conditions create in your reality. This is not true. The truth is you're creating it all. You're creating conditions which you may see as dangerous or bad or unwanted in order to understand where you are. Are you being this true creator? Are you focused on the creation of what you prefer? Are you moving along a journey of self-discovery? Are you interacting in love and acceptance with yourself, others around you, the conditions? Or are you resisting it? Are you building up barriers? Are you thinking that things should be different than they are? Are you wishing that things should be different than they are? If you tend to find that you're wishing things would be different, I wish the government was different. I wish the predators were different. I wish the perpetrators were different. I wish I was different. Well, then you're simply not understanding your power. Well, this is well and good because you came here to play around in this illusion that you were not the source creator of your reality. Yet, as much as you're playing around in that reality, you're drawing to you conspiracies of all sorts, which we call manifestation events, to show you who you're being. And if any area of your life is not working out the way you think you can be sure that in those areas, to some extent, you're living in this limited idea of self as the victim. If you can realize what's happening and say, this is okay, I accept this, I see how it's for me to understand my belief system, I welcome it in, I welcome the negative emotion, I welcome the manifestation events, I welcome all these things that are happening. They are just there to move me along a journey of self-discovery, to get me from the track of victimhood in fear consciousness to the track of creation in love consciousness. And as you move through that course from lack and shame and fear and victimization to more awareness of who you truly are as the creator of your reality, you get a visceral experience and an expansive experience that at each level gives you more clarity to realize that it is not you, the human, that's really existing in this reality. It's you with the overall sense of source itself projected through you, and the free will that you have is the choice of perspective. Will I choose the higher perspective of my source coming through me to create limitless possibilities that resonate with joy and love as I intended prior to my birth in order to fulfill a purpose, maybe to help others see the same thing, maybe to create something bigger than you could ever imagine, maybe to move the entire mass consciousness along from fear to love. And this is why you're all here, why you're all interested right now, your pre-birth intentions coming through to play this game, to go from the illusion to the reality. And when you find higher levels of truth, understanding that you've created all along and that you are the creator and that you can create wondrous events and wondrous circumstances and wondrous experiences, you will feel the love coming through and you will gain more acceptance, more clarity, and allow more and more and more love to go through you infinitely, 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 to bring more of what you think is positive into your reality. You have a reality that was created the day you were born. This is your universe. In this universe, you are either looking at things in fear or expressing love. If you can fill up your universe with more and more and more love, you are fulfilling the pre-birth intentions you set, and you are doing everything that you came here to do. You are on a new level of awakening to the truth of who you are. And the truth of who you are is you are love, you are source, you are all that is, you are one with all that is. And when you realize this in your own life, now you act a little bit differently. Now you think about why you're judging things. Now you think about, why am I causing any harm? Why would I ever say something that might provoke some negative reaction? I don't need to act on urges to change conditions or to control anything. I can go with the flow of what is, seeing the perfection of who I am, of who they are, of the present moment, and I can live in this state of higher power, of source consciousness, of a radical new change and approach to life to bring love and love and love and love and love and love and love into this environment of physical reality for the purposes of greater expansionness and the exploration of true limitlessness. And you are limitless humans. All of you are limitless humans playing around with the idea of limitation, and you can move through those experiences of limitation, through the experience of lack, of jealousy, of hatred, of not enoughness, of unworthiness, to greater and greater and greater and greater levels of worthiness and truth and love and satisfaction in everything you do. Not to change anything that's wrong, not to say that that person shouldn't have their experience, but to accept it all as your perfect creation. And through the acceptance of your perfection and the perfect creation that you have always had, you will be living in this elegant and highly satisfactory experience of physical reality. And from there, anything's possible.
Wow. Thank you, Joshua. Amazing. And Sly, would you like to add something, or?
Yeah, let me look at Max here. Hey, Max, look what you wrote. Conspiracy theories are an expression of someone wanting to have an easy answer. The answer is yes. Or are they alternate realities? The answer is yes. Or are they a result of fear or something else? The answer is yes and yes, subjectively to you. You're projecting conspiracy theory through the investigation of an answer, whether it's happening on another reality or not, because I would go ahead and follow the law today for you, Max, here and now. Right now, you're in your room, right? I'm probably in your little room there, and that's your now, right? Where's everything else? Right here, right? Memory? You're tapping into the idea of consciousness up here, the iCloud of memory, human psyche. And that psyche gives you valuable ideas of occurrences. And then you bring those iClouds down to here, then you put it on your phone, you put it on your TV, you put it into a friend, and whatever it comes, and then you get to relate to reality. But none of that's happening literally in the now. But you're bringing it into your now, so therefore you're creating a reality and the energetics and all the other stuff. Yeah, I don't care. Where are you in the now? Conspiracy theory is an answer. But if you go back to the raw material and you go back to remember your Seth, both of them talked about relationship to the reality of the now, and there's transient information. Information that comes through, it is like a bonbon. It's good, puts a little fat on your ass, feels good, but then it's gone. And then you have to keep feeding yourself that sugar high, that I get to deserve something of consciousness. So I'm going to choose this candy and be candy for a while, because it's not happening. And it's not your job to stop it. It's your job to find you. Find the love of the self in the now. In the now tells you everything that's relative to the attraction. Otherwise, it wouldn't be now. Your now is because you already are. It's not because of what you're coming, because there's no time. It's already matched. So conspiracy theories are not right or wrong. There's something to play with. Play all you want. But then get back to the now and say, wow, none of that's happening. Maybe I want to do something for me today instead of thinking about what's not, what should be, what could be, what might be, what are they doing to me? And playing the victim through that acceptance, then go ahead. No matter what's going on in the planet, it's still your relationship to it. It's still all of it a relationship. So look at that, okay? Here and now. All right, Justin, I'm good.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Sly. That was a well-rounded answer as well. I'm thinking, Alan, maybe we can, we already had Massimo's 2 questions from, maybe we can skip forward. Would you like to ask the next one?
Sure. This is specifically for Sly. Can you explain a little more about our crew, guides, angels, other selves, etc.? It gets a little muddled in my human brain. And then maybe other people can answer too. But go ahead.
Yeah. The human brain is taught to compartmentalize, put it together in little categories. So let's think about school for a second. You were just being, and then they taught you to go to school. And in school, you had a goal. They taught you time to become. And those became projections of selves. I'm here, and my teacher says I'm going to be there. So now I have the ability to put in time a definition, a compartmental achievement, something to become, right? So those ideas are identities. They're identities projection. They're identities. They're things to become. I have to become second grader, third grader, fourth grader, middle school, high school, college, graduate, love, marriage, career, dead. Yay, human. What a journey, right? But you're not human anymore. You're realizing you're creating a human self. So the mind is still wanting answers. That's a habit of the mind, to find what you were taught and reinforce on the daily basis. What's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? What's that? So you got to put it in little categories. You got to compartmentalize your reality to a safe and secure idea. If it's fear, you back off. You want to attack it. Maybe that's what you guys do. I'm wondering why aliens haven't showed up. Maybe it's because of your fucking guns. I don't know. Call me crazy. Because you react, right? So humans evolve. The light bearers come to the planet. They start to offer, whoa, we're seeing the things in fear and that kind of deal. So you're looking at your crew. So now let's look at the crew in the idea of the same mannerisms of compartmentalization. Angels, guides, your crew, your whole self, your collective self. These are still projections, folks. They're still projections. And they're not permanent, and they're not wrong, they're not right. They're still understandings of evolution. So angels are angels, but they're actually creators creating angels. And that connection is an angel that you're representing in your idea interpretation as that you accepted. Maybe it was brought through an idea. Maybe you went to a psychic. Who are my guys? Well, you got Archangel Gabriel hanging out in your corner. Then over here, you have a Pleiadian collective. You got a few of the Andromedans hanging out with you. And you can talk to them, and they become guides. So you project them as an external idea of evolution. But then this will come back to the one and the all. See, the one is a creator. That's a God. Let's just pretend a God for a second, right? It's only me. No one else is here. There's no other singularities. And I only can see one thing one way, my way. And that's pretty limiting, because I only have one way to interpret reality, my way. So I think I'm going to create an infinite number of points of view that can see everything in their own way. So all of a sudden, we have the all. And that really didn't happen like that, but you understand it in time for the relevance of the conversation, right? So now you're looking at that right there as all these singularities having their own point of view. And since this singularity, you here, the fractal human, needs to project things in identification to understand its evolution through separation, then you put assigned meanings to these things. So they become your crew. So what am I? What am I to Roxanne? Roxanne's a singularity. She's a god, right? And then she finds me through the ideas. She finds Osiphus, she finds Buford, she finds all these ideas. And here comes Sly and comes in. And what am I? I'm a consciousness. I'm a singularity. But I am not Sly. I create Sly. Right? Roxanne named me. Because I projected a vibration and she interpreted a Sly. So she creates a reality through her own truth. Is my name Sly? Of course. How about in the other infinite number of cells I am? No, it's not Sly. I have a Rebecca, right? I have a tree. I have a rock. I have an infinite number of points of view. So when you look at that, you got to look at what it is in the nature of the human perspective in the evolution. You're projecting an idea and you're assigning it that. But really it's a subjective reflection of your own understanding of creation. Are they there? Of course. Am I real? Yeah. We're all real. We're all one God doing infinite points of the same God. So you can literally go to the mirror and say, I'm God. I'm the one, the only God, because there's no one else except you. Well, you created me, right? Which means I created you. Makes sense? When you put it in time, it gets hairy, a little sticky. But see, what it is everyone expressing consciousness to know itself. So therefore, there's an infinite number of ideas. So the crew that I am, the crew that you work with, are your vibrational attractions that you assign to. And they are that. You're not getting it wrong. There's no mistakes. When you got a Pleiadian connection, you know it's a Pleiadian. Because why? It's a singularity that's creating itself as an incarnation. And that incarnation is vibrating in a frequency that tells you the story. Hey, I'm a Pleiadian, and you use your own intuition to say that's a Pleiadian. So here's the human and the Pleiadian getting together to have a little reindeer games. And you're playing Monopoly on Christmas Eve, right? And you're having a good time. And that's what you do. You dynamically understand creation, but as soon as you add the human into it and put the idea of the definitions and objectifications wrapped up in the emotional sandwich package that you're going to deliver to your ego, then you're going to understand yourself as that value. That value. Like, I don't know why you guys put angels above you. Why do you do that? Well, because you were taught. Angels are, oh, they're so clean and pure, and we're the dirties down here. No, you're not dirty. You're badasses. You're masters. You came down here to not know yourself, and you brought in these guys and say, hey, guys, angels, you guys are around? We're going to do this. You want to come in? Yeah. And we're going to create demons, so we need some badass angels. Archangels? Cool. So now we got archangels. So great created these ideas to give us what? Versions of ourselves of explorations, versions of ourselves. So if you're looking at that idea, okay, about our crew, guys, angels, selves. Ready? I am. I am. I am. I am. Creators create. The we always matches the I, no matter where you are. There's an infinite number of little bubbles. Infinite. And you're that bubble in that tiny little world. That's right there where you're at. Don't go beyond that world up here in the memory, because it's only going to distract you, which, guess what, is your bubble. If you have the courage to just be the now and see that those guides are reflections of self, the one and the all, that don't need to be defined. And you don't have to manage reality through the juggling act of how you can keep reality in the common sense of your own ego structuring real and not real. Then you can go beyond the mastery of your own separation into your own remembrance. And to know that these guides are friends. The angels aren't above or below you, and Pleiadians aren't special, and you're not in any way operating at a diminished or a deficiency. You're a creator. Start with the what, creating the who's. And then you'll see those are other what's creating who's. And you get together with them, but you don't diminish them to an assignment or a purpose or a meaning. You allow the story to be told that you're attracting. Because when I come to you, I'm not going to come to you as a purpose. Because if I'm trying to project a purpose on you so I can get you to see what I am, then I'm only dumbing myself down to the authentic self that lies in the moment. So I allow myself always to be light, the authentic. And that's what actually is always happening. All creation is coming at you full blast, and you're interpreting. So your interpretations of crews are yours. Okay. That's it.
Thank you, Sly. Love it. Would Joshua or Darryl like to come through?
As a human, you perceive that you're an individual, and you see others around you, and you perceive that they are other. They are not you. You perceive that your house is not you. Your neighborhood is not you. That tree is not you. Your spouse is not you. Your friends are not you. And this gives you a sense of who you are in that reality. And so from this idea that you are more than this individual, and that you're here for a reason on physical reality, to have these experiences, and that you are always guided through what we could call an inner self. That inner self is a representation of the consciousness of who you are, existing in the non-physical in a focused way on the non-physical, but perceiving every aspect of your reality, every thought, who you are, all your pre-birth intentions. Amongst that, which you might think your inner self is an individual, it's actually a collective of aspects of you that have existed in previous incarnations. It's a little bit hard to grasp from the human perspective. You want to say my inner self is an individual and that I have guides and supporters, which you do. Of course, these guides and supporters are also creations of you, just as Sly was saying, the coffee cup and the house and the job and all these things are your creation anyway. But for an empowering way to look at it, you can say, I am never alone, which is absolutely true. You are never alone. You have the manifestations of people in your life. You created those people. You have the manifestation of pets. You created those pets, of nature, of birds, of trees, of your non-physical guides and supporters, all seeking to guide you through the truth of who you are. Whether you understand it or not, they are there to give you inspired ideas, to offer you thoughts, inspirations, intuition, ideas that go beyond your belief system, that are just at the edge of that belief system, guidance towards information like this, and books to read, and shows to watch, and podcasts to listen to, and videos, and all that sort of thing, for the sole purpose of moving you along your journey of self-discovery to discover that you are the source creator of this reality and all that is, and all of it. You are the creator of all of it. And in that, you are limitless in that creation. But you are never alone. The limited victim human might perceive, I'm living alone, isolated in a malevolent universe. And you can explore every aspect of that, because in the non-physical, that's not really possible to explore. In the physical, loneliness is a concept that you get to play around with. Do you prefer it? Do you not prefer it? Why do you prefer it? Why do you not prefer it? You get to understand this concept of isolation or lack of companionship or what have you. But the truth is, you are all that is, and all that is infinite aspects of you, all experiencing who you are. Now, if you can see yourself from a little bit higher perspective, maybe not quite yet the perspective that you are the source of it all, you could certainly look at your reality and you could go, you know what? In this reality that is my life, enter your name in the blank, I am the only one in this reality experiencing this reality. There is no one else who can experiencing the reality that you're experiencing. It's just you. Yet you then bring in your spouse, your children, your parents, your friends, your co-workers, and they help you experience your reality. And you say, these are my friends, these are my enemies, these are my lovers, these are my parents, these are my leaders, such and such and such. All of them coming along with everything else that you create to help you experience this reality in a visceral way. In a truly visceral way. You think it's real. You believe it's real. And you gain from all the experiences you have, and you expand through those experiences. All of this is intended and part of the system, and it's perfect in every way. Now, where you get caught up is saying things should be different than they are. I wish my guides would change my reality. How come you're not helping me out fix this problem? Because they are always saying to you, your reality is perfect. Your experience is perfect. Everything you do is perfect. You've never once made a mistake. You've never once had an imperfect moment or an imperfect thought or an imperfect anything, judgment. You've never had an imperfect action. It's always been the perfect action in the moment, the perfect thought in the moment, all leading you to greater levels of awareness. And without all the previous actions and thoughts and judgments and urges and attempts to control things, you would not be where you are now. And where you are now is closest to understanding who you truly are than at any other time in this life or any previous life. It's perfect in every way. And so you can choose to argue with the perfection. You can choose to say, no, I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect. You can choose to look at your loved ones and saying, if they were perfect, they would make me feel something I don't feel now. So therefore, they're not perfect. They're not being nice. They're not being helpful. They're not being supportive. But they're acting perfectly to get you to understand where you are in your journey of self-discovery. How are you being? Are you being the creator that you truly are? Or are you being this illusion of something less than? And so you have guides and supporters in your life, all the people in your life. They are your guides and supporters. You may not look at them like that, but if you did, that would be more empowering. You have guides and supporters in the non-physical. You might say, my grandmother passed away and she's part of my guides. Of course she is. but you've created all of this to lead you for one purpose, this journey of self-discovery that is thrilling from the non-physical perspective. When you're deep into it and you're judging it as bad or wrong and you're suffering through these evolutionary changes that are occurring to you, you're just not going with the flow of what is happening because you're using a belief system to say, I wish that wouldn't happen. All you're doing is moving through the fear, and the fear is what's limiting you, and you want to move through and above that limitation to become the limitless being that you truly are. And every time you take a step forward in your exploration of the limitlessness nature of who you are, the power of who you are, you feel a bit of exhilaration, a bit of relief, a bit of fun, a bit of happiness, a bit of joy, a bit of clarity. This is what you came for. To think you came for anything different is simply limiting. So you want to move through that limitation and imagine that you have angels and guides and supporters and your inner self and source itself and all the people in your life are all with you on this journey, because you're an amazing explorer and they want to be here with you and for you so that you can come to another level of awareness and you unleash and unlock powers that are in the universe and flow them into this physical reality so that more and more and more of this exploration is possible. That's who you are, the greatness of you. And you are not alone. There are massive, well, there's not numbers. We shouldn't even say numbers. There's just this energy supporting you in every moment, the energy of love. And this is who you are. You are love. And everything that happens for you is this energy of love that's coming through you. If you can see that, then you can assign labels to anything you want, to that ornery person who's giving you a hard time. That's my guide. To that spouse who's having a bad day, that's my guide. To this child who's acting up, that's my guide. Because how you react in amongst all of this stuff going on in your reality allows you to see where you are. And that's your guidance.
Wow. Thank you, Joshua. Amazing stuff coming through today. It looks, maybe Ryok, would you like to chime in here? You have to unmute yourself. Yeah, I got you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the technical assistance.
Yes, that's what I'm here
A
for.
great deal has been shared so far that represents in many ways the nature of guidance. For your guidance, again, as has already been stated, comes from the idea of inner self first, reflected outwardly by the idea of individuals that appear to be around you, and the idea of non-physical individuals or collectives that you perceive as your spirit guides. Remember, all things are a reflection of you. They are expressions, extensions of your energy. Therefore, all of the guidance that you could ever imagine, all of the wisdom that you could ever receive, first and foremost has its origin energetically within you. As we have said, you explore the idea of different archetypal themes and roles as you move throughout your experience of space-time in the physical reality. Different archetypes, different themes will oftentimes have different forms of guides that will interact with you to assist you in exploring that theme. Some of them represent physical beings, some of them represent non-physical beings. So understand your guides ebb and flow and change as your character in linear space-time ebbs and flows and changes and evolves. Again, we remind you, all of these things exist at once. You're experiencing the evolution of these simultaneous things linearly. So right now, you have access to all guidance that you seem to have had in the past, that you seem to have right now, and that you seem to have in the future. Because remember, all things are here and now. So guides of your future self are available to you. Guides of your past self are available to you, and guides that are pertinent to how you are creating yourself to be in the now are available to you. Now, you might experience a greater relevance towards some guides more so than others. And again, that will be determined by the theme you're exploring. And as you remain in a state of authenticity, in a state of abundance, in a state of knowing, you will be able to automatically receive that which you need to receive in the moment as guidance in order for you to be yourself, in order for you to do whatever you need to do, in order for you to experience any theme or any archetype that you need to experience. It is only when you create the illusion of lack that you then create the experience of not having that inner guidance, thus creating the experience of the outer guidance appearing fuzzy. So whenever you want to connect with your guides, whenever you desire to immerse yourself in that world, don't look out there necessarily. Instead, pay attention to the energy of the guides you see out there, so you have a familiar feeling of guidance, and go within yourself and feel that quality of guidance, but within you. And as you allow for yourself to go into the frequency state of guidance, you then create the experience of being a magnet for all different types of information that represent what is most needed in the moment in order for you to continue to explore and be yourself in physical reality. So from our perspective, that is how guidance works. All of the guides are simultaneous. Some are more relevant than others at different times. Nevertheless, they are all technically available to you. Simply match their frequency.
Well, thank you, Ryok.
And thank you.
Thank you.
Loving it.
Should we just take the next question?
Well, from another person, I think Edgar.
Edgar, and then we'll do Nikki and see who else. Okay, great. Why don't you read the Edgar question?
Okay, I can. Yeah. How would one go about remembering the archetypical theme? Is it the way you say that?
The archetypal.
Archetypal. Thank you, Ryok. And Alan. They are playing out in their current lifetime. Ryok, why don't you're in the state? Maybe I'll go to you, and then the other channelers.
All right. The idea is to pay attention to your passion, pay attention to your joy, the idea of the activities, the themes that to you are exciting, that to you are inspiring. And you can begin through observing the qualities in those themes of passion, in those expressions of joy, the archetypal nature relevant to each of those themes. For example, maybe you find yourself fascinated by the idea of nature. Maybe you find yourself fascinated by the idea of plant medicines. Maybe you find yourself fascinated by the idea of learning about the human body or an animal body. You can, from observing those qualities, notice the possibility that maybe one of your archetypal themes is that of the healer. The idea is to play a game with yourself of connect the dots. All of the different things you're drawn to in your life that are based in passion are all connected like a constellation. They might seem like separate things, they might seem like disparate things, but they are all linked because like attracts like. So when you begin to connect the dots of the different things that represent your joy, you can begin to observe those qualities and realize the archetypal parallels. So simply pay attention to that which is inspiring to you. Pay attention to that which is exciting to you. And you can experience with great clarity the idea of what your major archetypal themes are that relate to what you would consider to be your soul's incarnational expression in this lifetime. If it feels as if certain skill sets or certain modes of expression are fuzzy to you, if this is exciting, consider reading one of your fictional stories that contain within them clear representations of the different archetypes. Pay attention to the ones you're excited by. Pay attention to the ones you're drawn to. That will clue you in to what your own archetypal themes are. And that's one of the reasons why you have so many stories on Earth. Because as we have said, the story structure reflects how your physical mind works and how your physical mind translates the idea of creating your reality, as well as the idea of expressing your soul's themes in the reality experience.
Wow. I'm blown away by this.
Great, that's great. How about Sly or someone related to Sly?
Someone related to
Well,
Sly,
I mean,
like all of us.
Right, like all of us, exactly.
All right, so Kania Shania Koko. Oh, okay, we'll do that. Hang on. You see, we're all poets and authors and storytellers, right? And in the idea of the transfigurable self that you're discovering, you have roadblocks. And those things are obstacles, or things of purpose is an obstacle. Because as a child, you played and you played and you played, and then they told you don't do, and then you became cautious. And that was a story, a story you told yourself that says, I got to be careful, because if I do this and it's a waste of time, then I will be disappointing to that of outside authority. Right? And then what happens? Ouch. I suck. Yeah, right? And you lost passion. So archetypes, archetypical, new word. Maybe it'll go up on the stock market and make some shares on that word. It's a good word, isn't it? It's got some vibration behind it, kind of like conniption, right? All right. So let's play the game. Passion, purpose. I don't think Beethoven and Tesla ever thought of themselves as a purpose. You couldn't keep them down. Although Edison, you overweight, frickin' gluttonous, money-hungry bastard, at the expense of others, didn't have the passion that Nikola did. Because he didn't have a purpose. He was his passion, and that was discovery. And that's what this planet is. So what's Roxanne's passion? Well, she's a speaker. She's a channeler. She's a cook. She's a lover. She's a flute player. She loves to clean her house. She's a witch. She loves to create magic. A little kitchen witch, a little conjuring, little enchantment, not too much potions and stuff like that. Because everything is an umbrella here on Earth, and then there's pieces of the umbrella, right? And of course, most people label it as that, and it means that, and that's the end of it, without going in and looking inside. So they create a reality of lack. But you don't need to be a healer, but you can be. If it resonates, if it feels, as that Asasani thing said. He said what? What did he say? He said, your soul, that little thing you put outside of you. And that's over there. Hello, soul. Hi, how are you? Good. What do you got for me today? Well, I think I'll be a healer. Okay. How do I do that? And then here comes the offerings. And then without passion, you become purpose. And without purpose, you become passion. Because they're vital.